Tuesday, third try. I slept so hard that I feel like I slept for a week, I announced to Aunt Misty the next morning. Today is only Tuesday, right? I crossed my fingers and waited for her answer. Of course, she smiled and handed me the banana. Still Tuesday. That means yesterday was erased. My picture lay on the counter where I had left it. I studied it carefully. Everything looked like it had the evening before. The spaceships were gone, Sammy was in the house, and the dragon grinned. I tore it into halves, then quarters, then eighths, and kept tearing until it turned into confetti. Then I sprinkled it into the trash can. Today will be a normal day. No way was I going to write anything else with that pen. It held more power than I could handle. Nothing Sammy could dish out could be worse than the stress of the last 2 days. Did you complete your social studies assignment? I really wanted to say a bad word. No. Aunt Misty shook her head and made weird clicking noises with her tongue. But I would take the consequences this time. Making sure nothing terrible happened to Samothrace or the other kids trumped grades. It even trumped recess if Miss Diction made me work on the assignment before playing. If I hurry, I can do it in pencil when I get to class. What did you decide to do about Sammy? J.R.E. repeated when I arrived. I'm just going to give up my breakfast. I had a banana. I don't need anything else. Really? J.R.E. sounded disappointed. What about next time? What next time? I'll avoid Sammy from now on. J.R.E.'s pursed lips showed skepticism. Sammy beat me to the cafeteria this morning. I shuffled through the breakfast line with grim determination. I grabbed the last box of marshmallow O's, hoping it would be acceptable. A dry slice of toast and a chocolate milk completed the meal. Here you go, I said as I approached the table where Miss Langle's class sat. Now we're even. Sammy scoffed. Even? With this garbage? The toast flew off my tray and whirled into the trash can like a frisbee. I'll take this for later. Sammy picked up the cereal and set it next to an already open package and a strange-looking milk carton. And this... I should have backed away as Sammy opened my chocolate milk, but my feet were glued to the floor. With hobby glue, not that cheap washable stuff that takes hours to dry. This you can keep. Sammy held out the carton as if to pour it on me again, but my feet came unstuck and I jerked away. My tray flipped up, knocking the carton free and spilling the liquid down the front of Sammy's shirt. Now look what you did! Mr. Mender! Yelled Sammy. Mr. Mender, this kid just splashed milk on me on purpose. All I did was help open it. My mouth fell open in shock. That's not what happened. It was an accident. My heart sank as I realized how it would look on the video. What's going on? Asked Mr. Mender sternly. A cacophony of voices answered him, no two students saying the same thing. All right, Mr. Mender put his hands up. Sammy, call home or go to the nurse and see if they can have any clean clothes you can borrow. You, he motioned to me, come along and we'll let Mr. Frisk sort this out. Sammy pointed at me, then at the kitchen and mouthed, tomorrow, as I followed the monitor to the office. So much for putting this behind me. After being checkmated into telling Mr. Frisk, I accidentally slipped and spilled the milk. I had to apologize. Sammy accepted my apology with a smirk, and the principal advised me to stay with my own class in the cafeteria. During recess, Sammy kept sending me glares from inside a clean, bright t-shirt with a grocery store logo. Anyone would be upset having to wear that. I turned away to hide my grin. I heard Sammy is lactose intolerant, whispered Peyton as we headed toward the playscape. So? I glanced over my shoulder to make sure no one could hear us. So when you drink soy milk, it gives you gas. Maybe we can threaten to tell everyone if Sammy doesn't leave you alone. Yeah, chimed in J.R.E. from the monkey bars. Stinky Sammy's full of gas. Glad I'm not in that kid's class. J.R.E. was an aspiring rapper. Give Sam a pass to the nurse's office. If Sam drinks milk, you'd better be cautious. I rolled my eyes as Peyton giggled. Normally, I would never consider calling anyone names, but I didn't want to owe breakfast for the rest of my life. If If I follow JR's advice, would Sammy leave us alone, or would starting a rumor make things worse? After my adventures with Aunt Misty's pen, I hesitated to take any more chances. Those don't sound like kind words, J.R.E. Mrs. Diction walked toward us. She had been standing on the other side of the slides where we couldn't see her. Please don't say anything that might hurt someone's feelings. Yes, ma'am, replied J.R.E., dropping from the bars and wiping away a smile. If there's a problem, let me know so I can help you. There's no problem, said Peyton. Mrs. Diction circled the playscape and strolled toward the swings. Other students raced by us, playing tag. I was relieved to have the option of making fun of Sammy taken away, but something had to be done. At lunch, the students in Miss Langle's class kept glancing at our table and whispering. When the classes lined up to leave, Shruti leaned toward me and whispered ominously, You'd better leave Sammy alone, or you'll have a war on your hands. I haven't done anything, I protested. None of this is my fault. How could anyone defend Sammy anyway? Taking someone's breakfast, spilling milk on them, and making fun of them with silly rhymes is nothing, Shruti hissed. That isn't how it happened. All right, students, quiet as we enter the hallway, reminded Miss Langle. Mrs. Diction walked in after her. I clenched my fists and fumed, unable to answer any of the accusations. Someone must have overheard me and my friends at recess, but I wasn't about to place all the blame on J.R.E. for the rap. I could have stopped it. All through science, my mind refused to focus. My eyes glazed over, and I couldn't concentrate on the virtual investigation. I glanced up and spied my library books lying on a work table. That's where they are. 5 more minutes, class. I clicked answers without reading and just pushed submit, just in time to line up for gym. I was glad for a break until I remembered we had PE with Miss Langle's class on Tuesdays. The dragon and the aliens had gotten me out of it the last 2 days. We filed into the gym and sat on assigned spots marked by colored strips of tape on the floor. Good afternoon, everyone, Coach Spinner greeted us with a wide smile. Today we are doing stations. Mixed cheers and groans followed this announcement. About half of us loved stations and the other half preferred team sports. After reviewing the rules, Coach dismissed us to stations by columns. At least Sammy isn't in my group. I grimaced at Peyton, who sat in the next column with my antagonist and several members of Miss Langle's class. Yes, we get basketball first. Taylor raced over to the equipment bin as soon as we were released and grabbed a ball. Let's play horse. Better play pig, said Luis, a serious kid from the other homeroom. Stations are short. Okay, I'll go first, agreed Taylor. I missed my first 2 shots and quickly earned my PI, but then I relaxed and made 3 in a row. While waiting for my next turn, my eyes wandered around the room. J.R.E. twirled a hula hoop. Peyton's group had jump ropes, and Sammy and Jody turned a long rope while the rest waited to jump. Coach Spinner leaned down to listen to a student with a question when Peyton walked up to the rope. Time seemed to slow down as the rope spun through the air and Peyton jumped. Sammy yanked the rope tight and Peyton's legs tangled up. A loud smack echoed off the walls as everyone turned to see Peyton lying flat on the floor. Are you okay, Peyton? Coach rushed over. What happened? I'm not sure, stuttered my friend, whose back had been to Sammy. But I knew. Sammy pulled the rope on purpose. Coach frowned. Did you pull the rope, Sammy? No way. It slipped out of my hand. Liar! My face heated and my heart thumped. I picked up the basketball and I threw it at Sammy's face. Everyone gasped. The anger flushed out of my system and I felt amazing. It felt really good to throw that ball. Then Sammy started crying. Blood dripped from a red nose and spattered on the floor. My chest tightened, horror eclipsing the good feelings. Back to your spots now, ordered Coach Spinner. Sammy, pinch your nose here. Coach indicated the bony bridge of her own proboscis. Whimpering, Sammy obeyed. You and Peyton come with me to the nurse's office. Miss Race, she motioned to the PE aide. Call administrator and a custodian. Coach narrowed her eyes at me. You stay here until someone comes to talk to you. Green spots, please pick up the equipment, said Miss Race. The rest of the students returned to their seats in silence. Thanks a lot, muttered Shruti, bumping into my shoulder. I almost shoved back, but I didn't, knowing it would start a fight, and I would be headed toward suspension. After a few minutes, the secretary opened the gym door and motioned to me. I got up and followed her into Mr. Frist's office. So, Mr. Frist leaned back in his chair. How is it that you haven't been to the office once all semester, and now you've been twice in one day? What is going on? Sammy pulled the rope on purpose, and Peyton got hurt. I was defending my friend. I've checked the video, and it does look like Sammy jerked the rope back. However, Coach Spinner was already investigating by the time you threw the ball. Was anyone still in danger at that point, or were you just angry? I wanted to make sure Sammy wouldn't do anything like that again, I muttered, avoiding the question. That is our job. You have to give us a chance to help you. Instead, a second person got hurt. If everyone strikes back, the hurting continues. I thought of Shruti. If I had shoved back, everyone would have taken sides and it would have started a playground war. I sighed. I also heard there was some name-calling at recess. Tell me about that. We were just playing around. We didn't say anything to Sammy. But others overheard it. Do you see how that could be hurtful? I suppose. That was the point, actually, but Mr. Frist was right. It didn't help the situation. And I didn't mean to give Sammy a nosebleed. So what do I do? Now you need to apologize to Sammy for throwing the ball. By blowing out an extra long breath, I stifled another sigh. 2 apologies to a bully in one day. Unbelievable. What about Peyton? We will take care of that incident. You need to do your part. Mr. Frist stood up, and I followed him to the nurse's office. Peyton must have returned to class already because Sammy was the only patient, wearing yet another t-shirt and holding an ice pack. This time it was one that said, I woke up like this. The corner of my mouth twitched. I'm sorry I threw the ball at you. Sammy raised an eyebrow, glancing at the principal and then back at me. Okay. You will both have recess detention the rest of the week, said Mr. Frist, and I expect you to make good choices from now on. Yes, sir, I replied. Sammy just grunted and looked away. No recess for the rest of the week. I dragged my feet as the secretary walked us back to class. By the time I returned to Mrs. Dixon's room, it was time to pack up. Are you all right? I asked Peyton. A purple elbow waved in my face. Yeah, just a bruise. Sorry. Wasn't your fault. Well, if I had told the truth after breakfast, it might not have happened. Peyton shrugged. Well, maybe not. At least I didn't have to change clothes. We grinned at each other. So what happened? Asked Aunt Misty when I got home from school. The principal called. Twice. I couldn't lie to Aunt Misty. She'd probably start beeping like a metal detector. Aunts had the perfect mixture of concern and detachment to discern the truth, unlike my parents who believed everything I said. Probably because it was easier than taking the time to ask questions or give me the stare of skepticism. The whole story poured out, everything except the pen. Well, said Aunt Misty, studying me, sounds like you have your consequence. You need to tell the principal everything, though. First thing tomorrow morning. Yes, ma'am, I agreed as I grabbed an apple from the fruit bowl. Aunt Misty sat at her sewing table, and I took the pen from the drawer and ran to my room. I would tell the principal everything, but it wouldn't be tomorrow. It would be today. I sat down at my desk and clicked the pen. It sounded so ordinary. As I scribbled Tuesday's date across the top of a clean piece of paper, an inspiration struck me. Instead of restarting today, what if I went back to Monday? What if I could avoid the altercation altogether? With black ink, I scribbled out the date and tore up the paper for good measure. Taking a fresh sheet, I carefully wrote Monday's date. This time, I wrote out what I wanted to happen instead of drawing a picture. No room for mistakes this time. In my neatest handwriting, I penned, I make it to the cafeteria without bumping into Sammy. Would that be enough? I hoped so.